Have you ever noticed that by the time 6 p.m. rolls around, something in your brain just shuts down? You spent the entire day making big calls, sending sharp emails, solving problems back to back, and then someone asks you, "What do you want for dinner?" And you just blank. What if that's not laziness? What if something invisible has been quietly happening to your brain all day long, and by evening, it's already made the decision for you? Picture a regular Tuesday. You wake up sharp. You pick your outfit, map out your day, handle the morning chaos like a professional. By noon, still solid. Emails handled, meetings survived, decisions flying left and right. But by 6, you're ordering the same pizza you always order. You're scrolling mindlessly. You're saying yes to things you know you shouldn't. And the worst part, you blame yourself for it. You go to bed thinking, I need to be more disciplined tomorrow. But tomorrow, the exact same thing happens at the exact same time. Here's what nobody tells you. The reason you fall apart every evening has nothing to do with how tired your body is. It's something much more specific. And once you see it, you will never look at your evenings the same way again. Think about judges, federal judges, the ones who decide whether someone walks free or stays in prison. Researchers studied thousands of their rulings across a full working day. In the morning, judges approved roughly 65% of parole requests. By the afternoon, that number started dropping, and by the end of their day, it was nearly zero. Same cases, same judges, completely different outcomes. These are highly trained, intelligent, experienced people. So what changed between morning and evening? It wasn't their mood, it wasn't lunch, it wasn't bias. Something else was happening beneath the surface. Something that affects every single person on this planet, including you, right now, watching this. And the wild thing is, some of the most powerful people who have ever lived quietly figured this out. And the way they handled it looks almost too simple to be true. Barack Obama, the 44th president of the United States, wore only gray or blue suits every single day of his presidency. People assumed it was a style preference, but Obama explained it himself. He said he had too many real decisions to make. He refused to waste any mental energy choosing what to wear. Steve Jobs, the black turtleneck, every day. Mark Zuckerberg, the gray t-shirt, every day. These are people who had access to anything, the finest clothes in the world, unlimited options, but they chose to eliminate the choice entirely. They weren't making a fashion statement. They were protecting something. Hold on to that thought, because what they were protecting connects directly to why your brain quietly betrays you every single evening. And it gets even more interesting. Your brain runs on glucose, fuel, and every single decision you make burns through that fuel. Small ones, big ones, meaningless ones. They all cost the same mental energy. So you wake up every morning with a full tank. Every choice you make. Should I reply now or later? Should I take this meeting? Do I want the oat milk or the regular? Slowly, quietly drains that tank. Now picture 6 p.m. How much fuel do you think is left? Grocery stores already know the answer to that question. That's why the candy and the chips and the impulse buys are never at the entrance. They're at the checkout, at the exit. After you spent 40 minutes making hundreds of tiny product decisions, they aren't selling you snacks. They're timing the attack perfectly. So now you have an empty tank judge, an empty tank shopper, and you every single evening running on empty. But the experiment that proved all of this, that one will actually stop you cold. In 1998, a psychologist named Roy Baumeister ran a deceptively simple experiment. He brought two groups of people into a room. On the table, freshly baked cookies and a bowl of radishes. One group could eat whatever they wanted. The other group was told to eat only the radishes and resist the cookies. Then both groups were given an unsolvable puzzle. The group that had resisted the cookies, who had spent energy on that one act of self-control, gave up on the puzzle nearly 20 minutes earlier than the other group. Not because they were less intelligent, not because they were weaker, but because saying no to those cookies had already spent something they needed later. He called it ego depletion. Every act of willpower costs you. Every decision costs you. And the bill comes due right around 6 p.m. So ask yourself this. If your brain is literally running low on fuel by evening, why do we schedule our most dangerous choices for exactly that time? Why do we have the "what do you want for dinner" conversation after the longest part of the day? Why do salespeople push for the close at the end of a long meeting? Why do we binge, overspend, overeat, and say yes to things we regret, almost always in the evening? Because nobody warned us. Nobody sat us down and said, hey, your brain has a daily budget for decisions. When that budget runs out, your brain doesn't stop making choices. It just starts making the worst possible ones. This is not a character flaw. This is not a willpower problem. This is decision fatigue. And now you know exactly what's happening. The most important decisions of your life, the ones that actually matter, need to be made in the morning. The small, repetitive choices Meals, outfits, routines, automate them. Remove them from the equation entirely. Just like Obama, just like Jobs. Not because they're lazy, because they understood that every small choice you eliminate is energy you get to spend on something that actually changes your life. And the next time someone asks what you want for dinner at 6 p.m. and your brain completely short circuits, you'll know it's not weakness, it's just an empty tank at the wrong time. Share this with someone who always says, I don't know, you pick, because now you both know exactly why. And if you want to know how to rebuild your mental energy and stop bleeding it on things that don't matter, that video is coming. Subscribe, don't miss it.